Okay, let's get into this. Have you ever found yourself maybe in a really crowded room or even just, having lunch with colleagues and still felt this weird, isolating kind of emptiness? That strange feeling like you're behind some sort of invisible film. You see everything happening around you, but you just can't truly connect.
Right. Yeah. It's a really common paradox, isn't it? Feeling totally alone, even when you're, technically not alone at all.
Exactly.
And what's really fascinating is that this isn't just some fleeting modern thing, a quirk of our busy lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Alan Watts, the philosopher, he argued this feeling actually reveals something really fundamental, not just about our modern times, but about like a core illusion in how we even perceive reality.
An illusion. Wow.
He really challenged that deep-seated belief we all seem to have that we're these completely separate beings,
Yeah.
always searching for something outside ourselves, some external connection to feel whole or complete.
Okay, so Watts is basically saying our whole framework, the way we think about ourselves and other people, might actually be flawed.
That's a big part of it, yeah. He suggests the root of that disconnected feeling might be in that very idea of separate.
So our deep dive today then is really aiming to transform how you, the listener, view loneliness. We want to move beyond just the surface.
Exactly. And get into Watts's more, revolutionary insight that maybe true completeness, that feeling of wholeness we're searching, it might actually already be within us.
Whoa. Okay, that's a big claim.
It is. But if you really grasp it, this perspective could genuinely change everything about how you connection or the lack of it.
Right. So we're going to explore not just what creates this feeling, this sort of internal empty,
but critically, how to maybe tap into that inherent completeness. The one Watts assures us is already there, if we just learn where to direct our awareness.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, our insights today, they're drawn directly from really digging into Alan Watts's philosophy on this exact topic, right? Focusing on why we can feel so empty even when we're surrounded by people.
Precise. We've done a deep dive into his writings and talks on this very subject.
Okay, let's jump right into that core idea Watts puts forward, this illusion of separation. What did he actually mean by that?
Well, at its heart, he argued that we've been heavily conditioned, basically since we were kids, to see the world as just a collection of separate things, objects, distinct entities.
Like chairs, tables, trees.
Exactly. And crucially, ourselves included in that list. We learn to see me as this isolated unit, separate from everything else.
Okay.
And this ingrained habit, this way of seeing, it creates this artificial me here, others over there kind of isolation.
So that's where that feeling comes from, like being behind thick glass. That's such a vivid description.
It really is, isn't it? You can observe everything. You see people interacting, laughing, talking, but there's this constant subtle barrier. It stops you from feeling truly part of it, truly connected.
And Watts said this isn't just like a personal failing. Like it's not just me feeling this way.
Not at all. He saw it as a much deeper thing, a deep-seated mental construction, almost like the default setting for how our minds operate in this culture, something we've all kind of inherited.
Wow. Okay. A default setting.
And this mental construction, this invisible film we feel, it's really not about physical distance, you could be sitting right next to someone.
Yeah.
It's more about a profound lack of presence. Our own minds are actively creating and reinforcing that separation, even when our bodies are literally side by side.
Can you give some examples? How does this show up in everyday life?
Oh, constantly. Think about maybe you're at a family dinner, right? Physically there, but your mind, it's halfway through tomorrow's.
Tilty. Yeah.
Or you're mentally composing a text message while someone's talking to you. Or maybe you're in what should be an intimate conversation, but you're already rehearsing what you're going to say next instead of actually truly hearing the person in front of you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That rehearsal, definitely.
We all do, to some extent. There's subtle, almost unconscious ways we maintain that artificial me here, you there distinction. We're physically present, but mentally we're reinforcing the walls.
It's those little moments, too, isn't it? Like the automatic, how are you? You exchange with the cashier.
Exactly.
Neither person really expects or even want a real detailed answer. It's just noise.
It's social protocol. Or think about a typical work meeting. Lots of talking, maybe PowerPoints. But is anyone genuinely listening, or are they just waiting for their turn to speak or thinking about lunch?
Yeah, often feels like the latter.
It's this surface level engagement. It ticks a box, fulfills a social requirement, but that deeper human need for genuine connection, it's left completely starved.
We're physically there, but our minds are just elsewhere, building those invisible walls.
Precisely. We engage in these, call them ritualistic interactions. They bypass any real... And Watts would probably suggest this isn't just about being distracted,
What else is it then?
It's a symptom of identifying too strongly with the idea of ourselves as separate, and we get lost in the concept of me, rather than seeing ourselves as participants in this interconnected reality. The mind is constantly labeling, categorizing, judging, and in doing that, it inadvertently keeps reinforcing the illusion of separate. It's the background noise of our own thoughts that stops us from truly hearing or seeing the person right in front.
So if our own minds are creating this separation, how did Watts help people grasp the opposite? The idea that maybe we are connected underneath it all.
He had some really powerful analogies. One of his most famous is the waves.
Ah, yes, that one.
Right. He asks us to imagine waves on the sea. Each individual wave, as it crests and crashes, might feel entirely separate, unique, maybe even like it's struggling all alone against the wind.
Yeah, you can picture that.
But of course, Watts points out the obvious. Every single wave, no matter how distinct it seems for a moment, is simply an expression of the same vast underlying ocean.
Okay, so the wave is like us, our individual selves.
Exactly. Our ego, our personality, our sense of being this distinct, separate person, that's the wave.
And the ocean.
The ocean is the fundamental reality, the underlying unity, the interconnectedness of everything. Watts suggests that our loneliness, that feeling of separation, it stems from identifying only with the individual wave.
We forget we're part of the ocean.
Completely. We forget that, in essence, we are all just water.
Yeah.
Manifesting in these incredibly diverse temporary forms. We get lost in the form and forget the substance.
That's a really powerful image. But if we are all just water, fundamentally, why is it so damn hard to remember that, especially in the moment? What stops us from feeling the ocean when we're caught up in being the wave?
Well, it's the sheer strength of our conditioning, isn't it? From day one, we're taught to see ourselves as separate individuals. We're encouraged to strive, to achieve, to compete as individuals.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about individual success.
Right. And you see this play out so clearly in social situations. Think about a party again. People often arrive like distinct individual ways, each one trying to stand out, make a good impression, be witty, be interesting, be the most noticeable wave on the water.
Oh, totally. The performance aspect.
Exactly. But in that very effort to individualize, to stand out, they often forget they're all part of the same social ocean. Everyone there, deep down, probably just wants to feel accepted, understood, valued for who they genuinely are.
But the performance gets in the way.
The performance of separation gets in the way. Watts implies that if we could just remember this fundamental connection, this inherent oceanness, then true understanding and genuine acceptance happen without all the desperate strife.
So the struggle to be something special or to get validation from others, that would just dissolve.
That's the idea. It paves the way for authentic interaction, not just performing roles for each other. You connect as fellow expressions of the ocean, not as competing waves. Hashtag in the modern predicament and redefining loneliness.
Okay, but this modern world we live in, it feels like it's just amplified this whole illusion. Right? In ways maybe our ancestors couldn't even imagine.
Oh, absolutely. There's a huge paradox there. We live in these massive cities surrounded by millions of people, hyper-connected through technology.
Yeah, connected 24/7.
And yet, paradoxically, so many people report feeling more disconnected, more alone than ever before. It's almost like we're searching for connection in completely the wrong place.
Like looking for external fixes.
Exactly. We're constantly seeking that feeling of completeness through external things. Landing the perfect relationship, getting constant social recognition and having these spectacular Instagrammable experiences to share.
Right, chasing the next hit of external validation.
And this leads to a really crucial question Watts grabbed. Why does our culture keep selling us this dream of external happiness, this idea that connection comes from out there, when experience so often shows it's, kind of a dead end?
Right, why do we keep buying it?
Well, arguably, it's because that desperate search for external validation actually reinforces the very feeling of incompleteness we're trying to escape. It keeps the cycle going.
How does that work?
Think of his analogy. It's like trying to catch your own shadow.
Yeah.
The more frantically you chase it, the more relentlessly it slips away. Our cultural narrative hammers home this mess. Happiness, worth, connection, they all come from outside. Find the right person, get the right job, achieve the right status, then you'll be complete.
And that keeps us looking outward.
It keeps us perpetually looking outward, yeah. And it conveniently stops us from looking inward, which is where Watts insists that sense of completeness, that connection to the ocean already resides.
So true connection, for him, starts when we stop the frantic searching.
It starts when we stop desperately searching outside and begin to realize that the separation between me and the world is largely a mental construct, one that we are actively maintaining, often unconsciously.
Okay, this really shifts the definition of loneliness then, doesn't it? It's not just about being physically by yourself.
Not at all. Most people mix them up, but Watts showed they are entirely different, independent experience. You could spend a whole weekend completely alone, maybe hiking in nature, reading a book, being,
Yeah.
and feel this profound sense of peace, a deep connection to life itself. You wouldn't feel lonely at all.
Right. I felt that.
Yeah.
Solitude, but not loneliness.
Exactly. But then contrast that. You could be in a busy meeting with 10 colleagues, noise, activity, church, surrounded by people, and still feel like a complete alien, utterly disconnected, observing these rituals you don't understand.
Yeah. Feeling alone in a crowd, that's the worst kind.
That's the core distinction Watts makes. True loneliness, he suggests, happens when you are primarily present only with your social persona.
The mask.
The mask, yeah. That carefully constructed version of yourself you use to navigate the social world. Meanwhile, your true nature, your authentic self, stays hidden, suffocated, and fundamentally disconnected both from yourself and from the people around you.
Wow. It's like, he used an analogy, didn't he? Like wearing tight clothes.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. It's like wearing clothes that are way too tight all the time. You can function, you go through the motions, you look presentable, but you never ever feel truly comfortable or genuine.
So it's not about how many people are physically around you.
No. It's about whether your authentic self is allowed to breathe even when you're in a crowd.
And that brings us right to this tension we all feel between being authentic and wearing those social masks. You see it constantly.
Oh, absolutely. Think about those automatic conversations we have dozens of times a day.
The scripts.
The script. Hi, how's it going? Good. Yeah, good thing. It's almost like we're programmed social robots performing a routine.
An empty dance.
An empty social dance, exactly. Two people exchange sounds, follow the expected pleasantries, but zero real communication happens. No genuine vulnerability is exchanged. We're just performing for each other.
Compare that to, well, what's the alternative?
Imagine a more genuine, maybe slightly more vulnerable exchange. Instead of the automatic script, someone genuinely asks, hey, how are you really doing today?
Okay.
And then having the courage to respond honestly, maybe something like, today was actually pretty tough. I lost out on that opportunity at work I mentioned, and honestly, feeling a bit lost, trying to figure things out. How about you? How's your week really been?
Wow. Yeah, the difference is huge.
It's transformative, isn't it? In the first scenario, two robots follow a script. In the second, two authentic human beings potentially connect through a small act of vulnerability.
It takes courage, though.
Absolutely. This isn't just about honesty. Watts would say it's a profound act of courage. Being truly real is almost countercultural in a world that often rewards conformity carefully managed.
Right. It takes guts to say, I'm not okay, when everyone else seems to be projecting constant happiness.
Or to show your imperfections in a society obsessed with polished perfection. But that countercultural authenticity, that's the bedrock. That's where real deep connections are actually forged.
So it really hammers home that the quality of our connection is infinitely more important than just the sheer number.
Totally. You could have, thousands of followers online, dozens of friendly colleagues, loads of acquaintances.
Looks great on paper.
Looks great on paper. But if none of those relationships allow you to be authentically you, if you're constantly performing, hiding behind those masks, you'll still feel profoundly, deeply misunderstood.
Whereas just a few real connections.
Right. Just a handful of people, maybe even just one or two, who truly see you, who understand you, who accept you, flaws and all. That can be more than enough to feel completely integrated, completely part of the living world.
That idea of the 2 a.m. call test really cuts through, doesn't it?
It's a great gut check.
Who could you actually call at 2 a.m. if you were in real trouble or just needed to talk? Who knows your deepest fears without judging you?
Mm-hmm. Who genuinely celebrates your win without that subtle hint of envy? Who's seen you at your absolute worst, most vulnerable, and still chooses to stand by?
Those questions. They instantly reveal the difference between just knowing people and having true connection, or between just being around people and truly being with them.
It's a fascinating paradox, too, because often we feel the most lonely precisely when we're surrounded by lots of people and friends at a really lively party.
Yeah, why is that? It seems counterintuitive.
Well, the very presence of so many people interacting, laughing, connecting, or seeming to connect.
Yeah.
It can actually highlight your own internal feeling of disconnection even more sharply. Contrast makes it clearer.
Okay, that makes sense.
A bustling party, a big social event. It can honestly be one of the loneliest places on earth if you feel trapped in that exhausting social performance. If you're just representing this edited, socially acceptable version of yourself.
Right. You're there, but you're not really there.
Exactly. You find yourself stuck in conversations about things you don't care about, laughing politely at jokes that aren't funny, maybe nodding along with opinions you don't actually share, all just to keep the peace, to fit in.
Maintain social harmony.
Right. But inside, you feel like a tired actor, playing a role you didn't even audition for, and all the external noise, the music, the chatter, it just seems to intensify that feeling of internal quiet.
That image you use, a tired actor playing a role you didn't choose. Wow, that really resonates. It sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting.
So if we're all potentially putting on these performances, how do we ever break free? How do we find something real? What did Watts see as driving this constant performance?
Well, one aspect he pointed to is how our culture often trains us to constantly, almost obsessively analyze our social experiences. We categorize, we judge, we rate our own performance and others.
Instead of just being in the moment.
Instead of just allowing connection to happen naturally, organically. This excessive self-awareness, this running internal commentary. Did I say the right thing? Did they like me? Was that awkward? It's like trying to drive while staring only in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. You miss everything happening right there.
You completely miss the present moment and any potential for authentic interaction unfolding right in front of you. And this is compounded by a bigger cultural issue Watts was very critical of.
What's that?
He observed that our society has increasingly created an environment that actively works against our fundamental human need for connect. How? By systematically starting to pull almost like disposable commodities.
Like objects.
Well, in a way, yeah. Our worth often gets measured by things like economic productivity, or physical appearance, or social status, rather than our inherent value as humans.
Wow. Okay, so we built a system that kind of undermines our own basics. Turning us into transactions instead of fostering real relations.
That's a good way to put it. And you see how this commodification plays out everywhere, often subtly.
How so?
Think about professional networking. Sometimes it feels less about genuine connection and more about what can this person do for my career? It becomes purely utilitarian.
Right. Transactional.
Or romantic relationships can sometimes morph into negotiation. What does each person bring to the table socially, financially, aesthetically, rather than being about a genuine union of two whole individuals? Even friendships can get contaminated by this underlying current of competition. Who has the better job, the bigger house, whose kids are more? When people become resources to be used or competitors to be measured against, authentic connection possible.
And this leads to another problem.
It leads to another major cultural taboo, which is loneliness itself.
The shame around it.
Exactly. Our culture often treats feeling lonely as deeply shameful, something to hide. Nobody wants to admit, yeah, I feel really disconnected, because it feels like admitting some kind of personal failure.
Like you're not popular enough or desirable or worthy of connection.
Precisely. It implies you're somehow socially unsuccessful, maybe uninteresting, or fundamentally unworthy of unconditional love and belonging.
And that's such an insidious trap, isn't it? Because if everyone feels ashamed to admit it, then we all start creating these elaborate masks, facades of constant happiness, effortless connection, busy social lives, while inside, so many people might be experiencing this silent, persistent emptiness.
It's a vicious cycle.
A completely vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. The more we hide our real loneliness because of shame, the more isolated we actually feel. The more we pretend everything's fine, the more disconnected we become from our own authentic internal experience. It just reinforces the very feelings we're trying to avoid. It's like putting makeup on a deep wound, maybe. Looks better superficially for a bit.
Great analogy. It might cover it up temporarily, but it does absolutely nothing to heal the underlying problem.
So what's the way out of that shame cycle?
Watts would likely say that honestly recognizing and acknowledging, even just to yourself, okay, I feel lonely right now, is actually a profound act of courage. It's a rare form of self-awareness in a culture that encourages denial.
So admitting it is the first step.
It's the essential first step towards any genuine, lasting change. To see through the illusion, as he would say, you first have to admit you're caught. Acknowledging the feeling without judgment is incredibly powerful. #, deep dive into the cause of persistent emotion.
Okay, let's transition now and really dive deep into some of the specific underlying causes that seem to generate this persistent feeling of emotional emptiness for so many people today. One huge factor seems to be just the dramatic scarcity of genuinely meaningful connections in our day-to-day lives.
That's absolutely right. We live in this really unique time in history where it's incredibly easy to accumulate hundreds, even thousands of virtual acquaintances online, like followers, contacts.
Yeah, the numbers can look impressive.
But simultaneously, it's become extraordinarily difficult for many people to actually develop and sustain those soul-nourishing friendships, the kind that truly make you feel seen and known.
So our daily social life often boils down to?
For many, yeah, it boils down to an endless series of pretty functional and often superficial interactions. Think about your work colleagues. You might talk all day about projects, deadlines, maybe office gossip.
Necessary but not deep.
Exactly. Necessary for the job, but rarely delving into anything personally meaningful. Or your neighbors, maybe you exchange polite hellos, talk about the weather, completely empty pleasantries.
Or social media, the endless scroll.
Right. Exchanging automatic likes, maybe generic comments, great pick that ultimately mean very little in terms of real connection. Now, these interactions have their place, of course, but they simply simply cannot nourish that deeper human need we all have. The need to be known, to be understood, to be accepted in our complex, messy totality.
You used an analogy before, like eating only appetizers.
Exactly. It's like trying to sustain yourself nutritionally only on appetizers. You might fill your stomach temporarily, feel sort of satisfied for a moment, but you remain deeply malnourished of the essential emotional nutrients your soul acts to thrive.
That fed but malnourished idea really nails it. So why is building those deeper connections so much harder now, do you think? What are the barriers?
Well, building authentically deep relationships requires huge investments. Investments of time, first off, real quality time.
Which nobody seems to have anymore.
Right. It also requires genuine emotional vulnerability, being willing to show up as you really are, not just the polished version. And it needs real, sustained emotional effort.
These aren't things you can just buy or acquire instantly.
Not at all. And on top of that, our hyper-competitive, highly individualistic culture, especially in places like the US and UK, actively teaches us values that work against forming these deep bonds.
Like what?
Like the idea that you should be completely that you should never bother others with your problems, that you always need to appear strong, independent, and like you've got it all figured out.
Right. Don't show weakness. Don't be a burden.
Exactly. And that mentality creates these invisible yet almost impenetrable emotional barriers around each of us. We're hesitant to reach out, hesitant to be vulnerable.
And the pace of life.
And the pace. Modern society values speed and efficiency above almost everything else. We want instant gratification, instant results, and that spills over into relationship. We want instant connections, friendships that work right away without demanding too much emotional labor.
But deep relationships don't work like that.
They're the opposite. They're profoundly like, say, fine wines. They need time to mature. They need careful attention to develop their complexity. They require immense patience to reveal their full richness. You simply cannot rush.
It's such a stark contrast. We crave speed everywhere else, but connection seems to demand slowness, patience.
It really does. And that slow, patient build, it gets really twisted, especially when we look at the digital age. Technology promised to connect us more than ever.
Yeah, connect the world.
But has it truly delivered on that promise in a meaningful way? Or has it perhaps led us down a slight path?
What would Watts say about that?
Well, Watts might point to this as a profound misdirection. The digital age, particularly social media, has created this incredibly elaborate and often very convincing illusion of connection.
An illusion.
Yeah. And ironically, that illusion can sometimes be more harmful to our mental health, our sense of true connection, than having no interaction at all.
How so? More harmful than nothing.
Think about it. You can easily spend hours scrolling through feeds, liking posts, maybe exchanging brief comments, interacting digitally with hundreds of people. Yet you can come away from that entire experience feeling empty, more disconnected, maybe even more anxious or inadequate than when you started.
Yeah, the comparison trap. That's brutal. It means we're constantly seeing everyone else's apparent best moments.
Their highlight reel.
Their highlight reel, exactly. And we compare it to our own, messy everyday reality. The doubts, the struggles, the boring bit, our blooper reel.
And that's just a guaranteed recipe for feeling utterly alone and fundamentally not enough. Watts might say we've become so immersed in this curated, fictional world online, we've almost forgotten what real life, with all its ups and downs, even looks like.
We're comparing fiction to our authentic, messy truth. It's a game rigged against.
That's a perfect way to rig. Because the most insidious part of social media is how it constructs this completely distorted, unrealistic version of human social reality.
It's not real life.
It's definitely not the full picture. Almost everyone posts only their best moments, carefully selected, often edited, maybe filtered, creating this collective false impression that everyone else is always blissfully happy, constantly surrounded by adoring friends, traveling to amazing places, living these incredible lives.
While you're sitting there in your pajamas feeling rubbish.
Exactly. So when you inevitably compare your inner reality, your fears, your insecurities, your moments of loneliness or boredom with this artificially polished public stage performance of others' lives, it's completely natural to feel inadequate, deficient, like there's something wrong with you.
You're comparing your vulnerable backstage reality
to their meticulously prepared.
Okay, so that's the downside, big time. But is there any way to use these tools or are they just inherently bad for connect?
Watts probably wouldn't label the tools themselves as inherently good or bad. Like any tool, it's about how we use them, our relationship to them.
Okay, so what's the balance?
The crucial balance comes with conscious intent. When used deliberately, with a clear purpose, Social media can actually be a valuable tool to combat isolation.
Like how?
Think about specific online groups centered around genuine shared interest, maybe a niche hobby or a particular author, or virtual support communities for people going through similar life challenges, or even just using platforms to organize actual real-world in-person meetups.
Okay, using it as a bridge.
Precisely, using it consciously as a bridge to real, embodied in-person connection, not letting it become a permanent It's the difference, like we said, between using a map to plan your journey and reach a destination versus just staring at the map forever and never actually going.
That's a great distinction.
And there's another issue too. Social media has systematically fragmented our ability to sustain attention, to be truly present.
The constant notifications.
The endless stream. Notifications, updates, messages, all demanding slices of our mental attention. This makes it extraordinarily difficult to be fully, genuinely present in a real face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, you're talking to someone, but you hear your phone buzz.
And your attention is instantly split. It's like trying to have a deep, intimate conversation while a loud TV is blaring news headlines in the corner. Technically, you're in the same room, but the quality of connection is just dramatically compromised. It leaves you with that nagging sense of not having been truly with the other person.
Okay, so beyond the external factors like culture and technology, sometimes the loneliness comes from within our existing relationships, right? Like the basic emotional needs just aren't being met there.
Absolutely. This is a huge one. You could be technically surrounded by people who genuinely care about you, family, friends, a partner, but if those relationships consistently lack certain key ingredients, you'll still feel profoundly instantly alone.
Key ingredient.
Like genuine, like balanced emotional reciprocity, like real, tangible support, especially when times get tough.
It's like that image you painted earlier, sitting at a table piled high with food, but none of it has the actual nutrients your body needs.
Exactly. You're technically being fed socially, but you're still starving emotionally for what you truly require.
Let's break those down. Genuine empathy. What does that really look like? It's more than just listening.
Oh, much more. True. Transformative empathy goes way beyond just polite listening or offering quick advice. It's the rare ability to really tune in, to capture and respond to the subtle emotional tone behind the words someone is saying.
Feeling with them,
yeah. Trying, to the best of your ability, to genuinely sense what they might be experiencing at a deeper level. And this requires total presence. It means stopping whatever else you're doing, putting down the phone, making eye contact, and truly being with them in their feelings.
So the difference between saying like, oh, that sucks, while scrolling Instagram.
Right. Versus someone who stops completely, looks you right in the eyes, maybe leans in slightly and says with genuine warmth, wow, that sounds incredibly painful for you. Tell me more about what you're truly feeling right now. I'm here to listen. The impact is worlds apart.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and the second one, balanced emotional reciprocity. What's that about?
This means that over the long haul, the relationship feels like a two-way street emotion. It's a naturally balanced, mutually nourished.
Not one person doing all the giving.
Exactly. It's not a dynamic where you're consistently the one offering support, always the designated listener, always remembering birthdays and asking thoughtful questions. But you rarely receive that same level of care and attention back. Healthy relationships need that ebb and flow where both people seen, heard, and valued time.
Makes sense. And the third, real and tangible support.
This goes way beyond just offering nice words or It's about who is genuinely instantly there for you during the truly difficult moments in life. Who offers practical, concrete help without being asked.
Like bringing soup when you're sick.
Exactly. Or who calls just to check in, genuinely asking how you are without wanting anything in return. Who remembers to ask about that important job interview or doctor's appointment. Or maybe, crucially, who simply stays by your side, offering quiet presence, even when you're going through a rough patch and maybe aren't the most pleasant company.
Yeah, that's real support.
Those tangible acts of showing up consistently through thick and thin, that's what builds the absolute bedrock of trust and true connection. It shows you matter, that you're not alone in navigating life's challenges.
Okay, another huge source of this modern loneliness seems to be our almost obsessive cultural habit of constantly comparing ourselves and our relationships to these completely unrealistic ideals.
Oh, this is a massive one. We are literally bombarded every single day through advertising, movies, TV shows, social media with these carefully constructed images of like cinematically perfect friendship.
Yeah, the ride or die besties who are always there.
Right. Or these epic, soap opera-worthy romantic relationships full of grand gestures and zero conflict. Or these images of perfectly harmonious, unconditionally happy families where nobody ever argues or gets on each other's nerves.
Which is not reality.
Not even close to reality. This relentless onslaught creates an absolutely impossible emotional standard for real life because these idealized images conveniently leave out all the messy bits.
Like what?
Like the inevitable arguments and misunderstanding, the periods of distance or disconnection, the financial stresses, the health problems, the annoying personality clash, the sheer hard work that goes into maintaining any long-term relationship. None of that makes the final cut.
It's like comparing your actual lived-in house, with the laundry pile and the bills on the counter,
to a glossy spread in a home decor magazine where a whole team of stylists spent days making everything look effortlessly perfect.
Exactly. It's an unfair comparison.
Completely unfair. So when you inevitably compare your real relationships with all their natural imperfections, their human limitations, their complex dynamic to these artificially polished, unreal versions, your real relationships always seem inadequate, disappointing, flawed.
And we end up feeling like there's something wrong with our friendships or our partner.
Yeah.
Because they don't match this impossible fantasy.
Precisely. You can even become so mentally fixated on finding the mythical perfect friend or the soulmate partner that you become blind to the value of the imperfect but real, available, and potentially wonderful people already in your life. You fail to nurture what you have because you're chasing a fantasy.
So Woss might ask,
He'd probably ask, how much of the loneliness you feel is actually just a symptom of constantly comparing your authentic, messy, perfectly imperfect human experience to some impossible curated ideal? It's a setup for perpetual disappointment. It's a game you literally cannot win.
wow. Okay, shifting gears slightly, sometimes the roots of loneliness go even deeper, don't they? Back into our past. Unhealed wounds.
Definitely. Watts often talked about how our Western culture tends to keep us mentally stuck, either ruminating on the past or feeling anxious about the future. And this prevents us from being fully present, which is where connection actually happens.
And specific past experiences can really shape that.
Oh, huge. Specific relational traumas, things like being cruelly rejected, deeply betrayed, abandoned by someone important, or experiencing profound emotional hurt in a past relationship. These experiences can leave lasting scars.
Scars that affect how we relate now.
Absolutely. They don't just stay in the past as painful memories. They become unconscious filters through which we interpret all our subsequent interactions.
Filters. How does that work?
Well, if you've been badly betrayed in the past, you might unconsciously scan for tiny signs of potential betrayal in current, even interpreting innocent actions negative. If you've experienced abandonment, even temporary distance from someone might trigger intense anxiety or being left. If you were constantly criticized, you might hear criticism even when none is.
So the past colors the present.
And when we've been significantly hurt, our brain, quite naturally, develops these elaborate, often automatic protection mechanisms. Their job is to prevent us from ever experiencing that kind of pain.
Like putting up walls.
Exact things like maintaining defensive emotional distance, avoiding opening up too much, finding it hard to trust, or even sometimes unconsciously sabotaging relationships as they start to get close just to avoid the risk of hurt.
It's like your brain is still fighting a war that actually ended years ago.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And those defenses, those protective walls, while they might have been incredibly useful in a deck then,
Now they keep you trapped.
now they become these limiting emotional prisons in the present. You might consciously desire deep connection. You might crave but there's this unconscious, deeply protective part of you that holds this paralyzing fear of being hurt. It keeps you tethered to the past, unable to fully risk engaging in the present moment where true connection actually resides.
Wow, that's heavy. And then, of course, there are complex mental health issues themselves, right? Like depression or anxiety. They must play a huge role, too.
Oh, absolutely. Things like clinical depression, chronic anxiety disorders, PTSD, and other, they can dramatically and significantly intensify feelings of loneliness and social disconnect. It often creates this really difficult double bind.
How so?
Well, mental health isn't just a private internal struggle. It profoundly impacts our capacity, our energy for social interaction, and how we perceive others' responses to us. And it often creates these vicious, self-perpetuating cycles that are incredibly hard to break out of alone, often requiring specialized support.
Like with depression, how does that cycle work?
Depression has this really complex circular relationship with social isolation. It can be both a cause of loneliness and also a consequence. So when someone's battling depression, they often experience a profound loss of interest and energy, even for activities and people enjoy. Socializing just feels exhausting, overwhelming. They might also develop distorted negative beliefs like nobody really wants me around, or I'm just an emotional burden to my friends.
Which leads to pulling away.
Exactly. These thoughts and feelings can lead to progressive self-imposed isolation, but then that very isolation feeds the depression even more intense. It confirms the negative belief. It's a downward spiral.
And social anxiety, how does that contribute?
Social anxiety fuels loneliness through fear. A persistent, often overwhelming fear of being negatively judged, criticized, or rejected by others. This fear can lead people to avoid social situations altogether.
Missing out on opportunities to connect.
Right. Or if they do force themselves into social situations, they might behave so anxiously avoiding eye contact, speaking very little, seeming preoccupied that they inadvertently end up sabotaging the interaction anyway. This results in fewer genuine opportunities for connection, which then reinforces their negative self-belief. See? Nobody likes it.
Another vicious cycle.
Another vicious cycle. These are really critical areas where simply trying harder with personal strategy might not be enough. Professional support often becomes not just beneficial, but genuinely essential for understanding and breaking ingrained patterns. Hashtag practical and transformative strategies for construct.
Okay, so we've really unpacked a lot of the complex causes behind that feeling of emptiness and disconnection. Now let's shift focus and talk about practical, maybe even transformative strategies. Things people listening can actually do to deal with this constructively. Where do we start?
The absolute foundation, the first and most crucial strategy, is developing genuine, deep emotional self-awareness.
Knowing yourself better.
Knowing yourself better on an emotional level, yeah. This means getting really clear with almost surgical precision about what is specifically missing for you in your current. What do you truly need to feel genuinely connected, understood, and emotional? It's different for everyone.
So it's like becoming a detective of your own feelings.
Exactly. You're becoming a detective of your own emotional landscape. You're looking for clues, hunting for patterns, what situations make your soul sing, what interactions leave you feeling drained or misunderstood.
How do you actually do that? Practice.
Start by conducting a really honest reflection about your existing relationships. For each significant person in your life, friends, family, partner, even key colleagues, ask yourself with genuine curiosity, how do I consistently feel after spending time with someone?
Not just during, but after.
Yes, the after feeling is often very revealing. Do you generally feel energized, uplifted, more connected, or do you usually feel drained, diminished, maybe vaguely anxious or misunderstood? Be honest.
Okay.
An incredibly revealing exercise is to keep a detailed emotional diary for, say, a few weeks. Just jot down brief notes about your feelings before, during, and especially after your most significant social interaction day.
Looking for patterns again.
Looking for consistent pattern. Pay close attention to the subtle sign. Before meeting someone, do you feel genuine excitement or more like a sense of awe? Afterwards, do you feel inspired and seen or maybe subtly criticized or note it down without judgment?
And reflecting on our own behavior too.
Absolutely. Reflect deeply on your own habitual patterns. Do you tend to open up gradually and appropriately, or do you usually stay pretty superficial, keeping people at arm's length? Do you ask genuine, curious questions about others, or do you mostly just respond polite spoken? Do you actively take initiative to connect, or do you tend to passively wait for others? How do you typically handle conflict? Can you express a different opinion while still maintaining affection and respect?
Wow, lots to think about there.
This deep self-observation provides a practical, personalized map of your internal landscape and your real habit. And one more key piece of self.
What's that?
Clearly and specifically imagining what an ideal connection would actually look like. If you could wave a magic wand and design the perfect friendship or relationship tailored to your deepest emotional need, what would it involve, Dave?
Like what kind of conversations?
Yeah. What kind of conversations would you have? How would care and affection be shown? How would you spend your time together? How would disagreements be navigated, constructed? Getting really clear and detailed about this vision, it provides an inspiring, actionable guide for what you want to seek out and actively cultivate in your life.
Okay, so once you have that greater clarity, this is what I need, this is what's missing, what's the next step? Just knowing isn't enough.
Okay. Knowing is crucial, but the next fundamental step is learning to communicate those effects clearly, honestly, and importantly, non-threateningly.
The communication piece. That's often tricky.
It can be, because so many people suffer unnecessarily in silence. They operate under this false assumption that the people who care about them should just know what they should intuit it.
The mind-reading myth.
Exactly. But the simple reality is most people are not particularly skilled mind readers, no matter how much they care or how well-intentioned they are. We have to give them clues.
So healthy communication isn't about being demanding.
Not at all. It's not about making demands or manipulating others. It's about being honest, clear, and direct about what you genuinely value in a relationship, and then collaboratively trying to create a natural, organic space for those things to happen more often.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you've realized through self-reflection that you deeply crave more meaningful, substantive conversations, not just surface-level chat. Instead of just wishing people would talk about deeper things, you could consciously suggest activities that naturally foster that kind of interaction. Like suggesting an unhurried coffee meetup specifically to talk, or going for a long walk in nature together, rather than always defaulting to safer, more superficial options like just watching a movie bar. You gently steer towards content that allow.
Okay, and what about expressing needs more directly?
It often involves shifting away from automatic closed-off response. Instead of the default, I'm fine when someone asks how you are, try being a little more specific and genuinely revealing while still being appropriate for the relationship in the context.
So instead of I'm fine, maybe.
Maybe something like, actually, I've been navigating a pretty challenging phase at work, feeling a bit overwhelmed, but also learning a lot about managing stress. How about you? How have things really been for you?
So you share something real and invite them to do the same.
Exactly. That kind of vulnerable but still appropriate openness often acts as an invitation. It signals it's safe to be real here, and it generally invites the other person deepening the connection.
That feels like a subtle but potentially really powerful shift. But what if the other person clams up or seems uncomfortable when you try to go deeper?
That's a really important question, and it connects back to Wass's idea about not forcing things. How often do we maybe subtly sabotage our own chances for deeper connection because we don't clearly signal what we need or because we're too afraid of the potential response if we do?
Yeah, fear of rejection or making things awkward.
Right. Watts reminds us that trying to force a connection or force a certain level of depth before someone is ready, it's like trying to make a flower bloom by yanking its petals.
It just destroys it.
It leads to destruction, not flowering. So the key here is to introduce these bits for deeper connection, gradually, organic, and then pay close attention to how the other person responds over time.
Observe their reaction.
Observe carefully. Some people will welcome your openness and gladly reciprocate. Others might seem resistant or change the subject or only offer superficial response. And that resistance, while maybe disappointing, provides incredibly valuable
information
about which relationships genuinely have the potential and which ones might be destined to remain more on. And that's okay. Not every single relationship in your life needs to be a super deep, soul-bearing connect, but recognizing which ones are capable of that depth and investing your energy there is absolutely crucial for alleviating that deeper.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Which leads nicely into another fundamental strat, really focusing conscious, sustained energy on deliberately deepening the relationships you already have, instead of always thinking the solution is finding brand new people.
Absolutely. So often the antidote to our love, geographically and emotionally, much closer, right there, in the potential of our, just waiting for us to invest the necessary emotional energy, attention.
It's like those micro investments.
Exactly. Think of it like compound interest for connection. Those small, distant deposits of authenticity, vulnerability, presence.
Yeah.
They build up over time and yield huge return, depth, and trust.
So how do we make those deposits? What does deepening actually look like in practice?
Well, it inevitably begins with that gradual but consistent vulnerability talked about. Intentionally, progressively lowering the defensive social masks we all wear.
Baby steps.
Baby step. If you're going through a particularly tough time, consciously make the choice to share some of that struggle with someone you genuinely trust, instead of automatically shouldering the emotional weight all alone. If something truly wonderful and exciting happens, don't just post about it online. Share that authentic joy directly, personally, with the people who are important. Let them share in it.
Okay, vulnerability. What else?
Quality time. Creating genuinely focused, intentional time together, time where you are both truly and without the constant interruptions from phones, TV screens, or the chronic rush of modern life feeling like it's breathing down your neck.
Undivided attention.
Undivided. It could be something as simple as an unhurried talk, or a prolonged coffee date where you share reflections on life, or simply cooking and eating a meal together with a focus on conversation, not just consumption.
And taking initiative.
Crucial. Genuinely healthy, thriving relationships require active, mutual nourishment from both sides. They don't just happen passively. This means taking consistent initiative to maintain regular, meaningful contact. It can be as simple as sending a personal text message, genuinely asking how their day really was, not just the generic hope you're well, or remembering something important they mentioned last time you spoke and following up on it, or suggesting activities you know they particularly enjoy, showing you pay attention to their preferences.
Small things that show you care and are thinking of them.
Exactly. They signal investment. And then there's the skill of listening.
Right. You mentioned active listening earlier. That feels huge.
It's absolutely transformative. Truly active and genuinely present listening can profoundly deepen any relationship almost instantly. It's probably the most undervalued skill.
So what does it involve? More than just not talk?
Much more. It means really paying total, undivided attention, mind and body. Asking thoughtful follow-up questions that demonstrate you've actually processed what they said and are curious to understand more. Consciously making an effort to remember details they've shared in the past and bringing them up appropriately later.
Showing that you retain what they say.
Yes. Minimizing distractions is key. Physically putting the phone away or turning it over. Maintaining comfortable eye contact. Using engaging, encouraging body language, nodding, leaning in slightly, maybe making small confirmation sounds like or okay. Even briefly repeating back a key phrase or feeling they expressed just to confirm your understanding. So it sounds like you felt really frustrated when that happened.
This small thing, they really signal, I'm with you.
They make an enormous difference. They communicate respect, care, and genuine interest, creating the safety needed for the other person to open up more. It shifts the whole dynamic.
Okay, so deepening existing ties is vital, but sometimes maybe our current circle just isn't meeting those deeper needs, right? Sometimes we do need to consciously create new connections.
That's absolutely true. While investing in existing relationships is primary, sometimes it's necessary and genuinely beneficial to intentionally seek out and cultivate new connections, especially if your current social network feels consistently superficial or unfulfilling.
How do you approach that strategic, not just hoping to bump into someone?
Right, it requires some conscious thought. The key is to strategically identify places or activities where you're likely to meet people who naturally share your authentic interests, your fundamental values, or perhaps are in a similar life.
So think about where your kind of people might hang out.
Exactly. This could be through pursuing genuine hobbies, joining a book club focused on genres you love, a hiking group if you enjoy nature, a pottery class, a choir, or through regular physical activities you enjoy, like a yoga studio or a running club. Meaningful volunteer work is often a great place. Taking courses on subjects that fascinate. Even carefully chosen, well-curated online communities that have a strong focus on organizing regular in-person meetup can work.
The key seems to be authentic interest.
Absolutely crucial. Choose activities that you genuinely, spontaneously enjoy doing for their own sake, not just places where you think you should go to meet people. Why? Because when you're engaged in something that truly interests and energizes you, far easier to be naturally authentic.
And you're more likely to find people you genuinely click with.
Precisely. You find people with whom you have an organic affinity, a shared passion. It feels less like forced networking and more like natural connection unfolding.
And showing up regularly.
Hugely important. Genuine, lasting relationships take significant time to develop naturally. You can't expect deep friendship after one meeting. Consistent presence over weeks and months builds familiarity, allows trust to grow gradually, and gives opportunities for connection to deepen beyond surface pleasantries.
And then you have to take a step out of the comfort zone.
Inevitably, yes. At some point, you need to step out of your emotional comfort. This might mean initiating conversations with interesting strangers beyond just polite small talk. It might mean suggesting grabbing a coffee sometime after the class or proposing meeting up outside the initial context where you met.
That can feel scary.
It can, but it helps to remember. Most people, deep down, also want to connect authentically. And people generally respond very positively to genuine, open-hearted, low-pressure initiatives. The worst they can say is no or be busy. It's usually not personal.
Right, it's about where your authentic self can thrive.
That's the core idea. Find the environments where your authentic self feels comfortable and engaged. That's where you'll discover genuine affinity, not just contact.
Another strategy that feels increasingly relevant is about managing our relationship with technology, specifically social media, and really prioritizing actual in-person presence.
Oh, this can make an extraordinary difference in your overall sense of connection and well-being. It requires conscious, intentional choice.
It's like you said before, choosing to actually travel to the destination, not just stare at the map all day.
Exactly. That analogy holds perfect. The difference in the quality of connection is absolutely transformed.
So practically, what does limiting social media and prioritizing presence look like?
Start by just honestly observing, maybe with a bit of scientific detachment, how much time you genuinely spend each day scrolling, browsing, posting, consuming online content. Use a timer app if you need to, be honest.
Most of us would probably be shocked.
Probably. And then think about how some of that precious time, because time is our most valuable, non-renewable resource, could be strategically redirected toward a much more emotionally nutritious and satisfying interaction. Like actually picking up the phone and having a real-time voice conversation with a friend instead of just trading texts or likes, like scheduling that in-person coffee or walk, or even, importantly, learning to become more comfortable and mindfully present with your own company rather than reaching for the phone the second boredom or discomfort arises.
And when you're with people in person,
make a conscious, deliberate effort to minimize the technological distractions that fragment attention and dilute the quality of presence. Physically, put your phone away or turn it face down or put it on silent in your bag. Create an environment, even just for that hour, of focused, mutual attention.
Because there's something unique about physical presence.
Absolutely irreplaceable. There's the subtle ability to read nuanced body language, to feel the other person's actual energy, to capture micro expressions and subtle shifts in tone of voice that get lost digitally, to share sensory experiences together, the taste of the coffee, the view, the sounds around you. None of that translates fully online.
So
Creating regular, predictable rituals of in-person connection can be incredibly powerful. They become emotional anchors in your week or month. It could be a standing monthly dinner with your closest friend, a weekly walk with your partner where you specifically don't talk about, a bi-weekly coffee with a sibling. Whatever works for you, Reg. These commitments ensure you maintain consistent social nerve and demonstrate you are prioritizing, truly showing.
Okay, this next one feels really core to Watts's philosophy, maybe often overlooked. Actively developing genuine self-compassion and incorporating regular mindfulness practice.
This is absolutely crucial, yet often completely neglected when people focus on low. There's a fundamental truth. You simply cannot instantly give to others presence, empathy, kindness, what you haven't first.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. If you don't know how to be kind, patient, and genuinely present with your own internal experience, especially the difficult, it will be extraordinarily hard to create authentic, sustainable, healthy connections with others. Your relationship with yourself is...
So self-compassion, what does that mean in practice? Not just being easy on...
It's more specific than that. It means consciously treating yourself with the same kind of natural kindness, understanding, and patience that you would automatically offer to a good friend who is going through.
Okay, so when you feel lonely or rejected,
instead of beating yourself up with ruthless self-criticism, what's wrong with me, why doesn't anyone like, you deliberately practice speaking to yourself in a more compassionate, realistic, supportive interview. Acknowledge that, wow, this feeling of loneliness really hurts. Without judgment, remind yourself and offer yourself some...
And mindfulness practice, how do they help with loneliness?
Simple mindfulness practices can be implemented anywhere, anytime, and they help you anchor yourself in the present moment, which is where life actually happens. When you feel overwhelmed by feelings of loneliness or disconnection, consciously stop for just a few minutes. Gently bring your awareness to your natural...
Noticing the breath.
Just noticing the physical sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. Don't try to change it or control it. Observe it. When your mind inevitably wanders off into anxious thoughts or lonely feelings, which it will, gently, firmly, and kindly bring it back again and again. Simple, present sensation.
Grounding yourself in the now.
Exactly. It grounds you in the present reality rather than getting swept away by painful thoughts about the past or feels about the future. And Watts, interestingly, would probably suggest something provocative here.
Okay.
That when you stop desperately seeking external connection to fill that perceived internal void, when you cultivate a sense of inner peace and acceptance through practices like mindfulness and self-compassion, you naturally become more magnetic to authentic connection.
How does that work? Less desperate energy.
Partly that. Cultivating inner peace doesn't magically eliminate your human need for connection, but it creates a stable inner foundation. You approach relationships from a place of relative fullness rather than desperate emptiness. You can connect more authentically in a more balanced way because you're not needing the other person to complete you or save you from your...
So self-compassion isn't just a feel-good.
Not at all. If we connect it to the bigger picture Watts painted, self-compassion is a fundamental prerequisite for truly healthy, sustainable outward connection. You really can't pour from an empty cup, and you certainly can't connect deeply and authentically with others if you're constantly at war with yourself.
Okay, finally, and this is really important, recognizing when it might be necessary and actually really beneficial to seek qualified professional help.
Yes, absolutely fundamental. While all these strategies can be incredibly helpful, sometimes the roots of loneliness are tangled up with deeper issues that require specialized support.
When should someone seriously consider seeking help? What are the signs?
If the feeling of loneliness is persistent, deep-seated, and doesn't significantly improve despite your genuine efforts using personal strategy. If it's accompanied by a profound sense of emptiness, hopelessness, or meaninglessness, or if you find yourself feeling increasingly disconnected not just from people, but also from activities you used to enjoy, from your sense of purpose, or from any real hope about the future, that's definitely time to reach out for professional work.
Are there specific warning signs to watch out for?
Yes. Things like persistent feelings of hopelessness or despair, a progressive withdrawal from almost all social contact or pleasurable activity, significant lasting changes in sleep patterns or appetite, marked difficulties with concentration that affect work or daily life, and certainly any recurring self-destructive thoughts or thoughts of self-harm. These require immediate attention. Please reach out for help immediately if that...
But therapy isn't only for crisis situations, right?
Not at all. You can benefit enormously from therapy or counseling, even without those more alarming signs. If you feel stuck, if your personal strategies just aren't proving sufficient to shift these deep-seated feelings of disconnection, or if you recognize patterns rooted in past trauma that you need help untangling, therapy can be incredibly valuable.
And it's not a sign of weakness.
Absolutely not. Seeking help is a profound act of courage, self-awareness, and self-compassion. It's an investment in your own well-being and in your future capacity for genuine, fulfilling connection. It's a sign of strength. Hashtag outro.
Wow. Okay, as we start to wrap up this really deep dive, let's just quickly recap some of the core insights we've explored today say, drawing on Alan Watts's perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I think the main takeaway is that loneliness, as Watts saw it, is fundamentally about our subjective perception. It's about the quality of our connection, or lack thereof, not just about physical proximity or the number of acquaint have.
Right. And it often stems from that powerful, ingrained illusion of separation, see ourselves as isolated units instead of part of an interconnected whole.
Exactly. We dug into some of the key causes fueling this in modern life. The scarcity of truly meaningful connections amidst superficial interaction, the often detrimental impact of the digital age and comparison.
Those fundamental emotional needs like empathy and reciprocity not being met, comparing our real lives to unrealistic ideals, the lingering effects of unhealed past wounds, and how underlying mental health issues can intensify everything.
But the crucial part, there are practical, transformative strategies. Developing that deep emotional self-awareness, really knowing learning to communicate those needs effectively and vulnerably.
Consciously choosing to invest energy in deepening the relationships you already, intentionally creating opportunities for new, authentic connections based on shared interest.
Mindfully managing technology use and deliberately prioritizing in-person presence. Actively cultivating genuine self-compassion and using simple mindfulness practices to anchor. And, fundamentally, recognizing the courage in seeking qualified professional help.
And throughout all this, there's Watts's wisdom about balance, right?
Yes, he consistently taught that the true art of living, including relating to others, lies in finding that delicate balance. A balance between conscious effort we do need to intentionally nurture connections and allowing things to unfold with a kind of organic natural, between having clear intentions for connect and letting relationships flow spontaneously without force.
So, for everyone listening, what does all this really mean for you? I think it means, first off, that you absolutely have the power within you to face this feeling of loneliness, to understand its roots, and gradually, step by step, to move towards more connection.
And it's so important to remember, experiencing loneliness is part of the universal human condition. There is absolutely nothing fundamentally wrong with you if you feel this, whether it's occasional or persistent. In fact, your willingness to even listen to this, to honestly recognize and consciously address this, that demonstrates profound emotional self-awareness and real personal.
And know that the journey to overcome chronic loneliness, or even just navigate temporary bouts of it, it's not going to be linear. It's not simple or predictable. There will be good days, maybe breakthroughs, and there will be challenging days, setbacks. That's entirely normal. Don't expect to magically transform your entire social life overnight.
Focus on small, manageable, sustainable steps. What's one tiny thing you could do today? Or maybe it's sending a slightly more personal, more vulnerable message to one trusted friend. Maybe it's finally signing up for that class or group activity about. Maybe it's simply practicing 5 minutes of self-compassion the next time that lonely feeling.
Because you absolutely deserve connections that are rich, authentic, and genuinely meaning. Connections that truly nourish your soul.
And perhaps this leaves us with a final, powerful question for you to ponder, drawing directly from Watt. If true completeness, that sense of wholeness, is indeed already within you, suggest what fear might be holding you back from letting that inner light, that inherent connection to the ocean, shine through more bright. And in doing so, naturally inviting the authentic connections you truly desire.